Hi everyone, I'm Matthew Moniz, and this is the new Surface Pro, Microsoft's latest iteration to their iconic 2-in-1 laptop. It hasn't been completely redesigned, nor does it have any new revolutionary features, but it does have some small but important updates. In this review, I'm going to talk about what's new, is it worth it, or should you buy the Surface laptop instead? If you were to put the Surface Pro beside the Surface Pro 4, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. With the new Pro, the edges are a little bit rounder, there's redesigned heat vents, an improved 165-degree kickstand, which allows the Surface to get closer, well, to the actual surface. And of course, there's a stronger magnet for the Surface Pen. It still weighs 1.76 pounds, making it lighter than the Surface laptop, and it's only a hair thicker than the Surface Pro 4. The port selection is the same as the previous model, so one USB 3.0 port, a mini display port, and a micro SD card slot. Microsoft still doesn't think USB Type-C is ready, but the lack of ports is frustrating, and having a third port using USB Type-C would have been a nice compromise. Interestingly, pricing is still the same at $800, and that will net you a 7th gen M3 processor with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. Now, don't buy this one. 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes won't cut it for daily use. The sweet spot for price to performance would be the $1,300 i5 with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage space. This seems to be the same price as the Surface laptop minus the type cover and pen, which will cost you an additional $230 if you decide to buy both. Speaking of the pen, it's no longer included in the box. So essentially, you're paying the same as before, but you're getting slightly less. It's really too bad. The new pen is much better. It's 2 times faster and has 4 times as much pressure sensitivity compared to the original. I never got one to review, but I would imagine artists would prefer it over the older one. Now you might have guessed, the display is the same one as the one on the Surface Pro 4, so a 12.3-inch Pixel Sense touch display with a resolution of 2735 by 1824 and the lovely 3:2 aspect ratio. I keep mentioning this a lot, but the 3:2 aspect ratio on a small screen makes it feel much bigger than it really is and much better for reading. But what's interesting is that Microsoft has added native support for the Surface Dial, which complements the 165-degree kickstand quite nicely. In comparison, the Surface Pro 4 hinge can only do 150 degrees. So if you've seen my Surface Studio review, it's a nice accessory to have if you're an artist. Don't worry, if you're a Surface Pro 4 owner, the dial will work on it too. It just needs a new firmware update that's scheduled for the near future. Sound is essentially the same. It's crystal clear with beautiful highs, nice mids, and a little bit of bass. The sound is coming out of little tiny speakers on each side of the screen. At least they face forward. They're not super loud by any means, perfect for a small room and personal listening, but not loud enough to have a dance party. The new type covers Microsoft is selling are identical in functionality to the ones sold with the Surface Pro 4. So you can either pay $130 for those or pay $160 if you want the new ones with the Alcantara fabric. They're pretty, and I'd be more willing to use Alcantara on a Surface Pro than a Surface laptop. The reason being is if it does get damaged from a spill or continuous use, I can always buy a new type cover, something you can't do with the Surface laptop. The typing experience is still very comfortable with 1.3 millimeters of travel distance. I usually find this distance to be a bit too short, but Microsoft did a great job with the key switches. The trackpad is made out of all glass, and I found it to be very accurate with the right amount of click. It's obviously not as nice as the Surface laptop, but very good for a thin detachable keyboard. For performance, I didn't get the i5 model, which is now completely fanless. That's amazing considering it's not using a wimpy Y series CPU, but the actual more powerful i5 chips that are found in other Ultrabooks like the Dell XPS 13 and Surface laptop. I have the fully loaded i7 model with the latest 7660U CPU and Intel Iris 640 integrated GPU, so more than powerful enough for everyday work, watching movies, and even working in Photoshop. It's not meant for editing video or playing newer games, but you could get away playing Overwatch with the settings set to low. It's not pretty, but it can be done with a resolution set to 1280 by 800. You'll get around 30 to 40 frames per second. Now, The Surface Pro comes with a Samsung PM971 NVMe SSD and got good read speeds of 1500 and write speeds of 970. In terms of heat, I'm going to compare it to the Surface laptop. The Surface Pro Surface heats up to 46 degrees Celsius under full load. This is about 4 to 5 degrees hotter than the Surface laptop. It also thermal throttles when CPU temperatures hit 90 degrees Celsius. The Surface laptop didn't thermal throttle at all and handled heat much better. Battery life with the Surface Pro is good, but it's not as great as the Surface laptop. With the Surface laptop, I can get around 9 hours of use compared to the 6 hours I only get with this one. But from what I'm hearing is if you opt for the i5 model, battery life is better since the processor is not as demanding. Alright, here are my closing thoughts. The Surface Pro is still the gold standard of 2-in-1s. It may not have gotten a huge redesign, but the changes are apparent when you start using it. The display is still amazing, the pen is better than before, battery life is improved, it's faster due to the new Kaby Lake processors, and you now have the option to buy a type cover with the new Alcantara fabric. The only negatives are very little ports, no USB Type-C, and the pen is no longer included. Microsoft is now calling this a complete laptop, but yet doesn't include the type cover. So if you're in the market for a Surface device, you're probably wondering if you should get this or the Surface laptop. It really depends on your needs. If you're a real estate agent, artist, a frequent traveler, or someone who uses the pen a lot, get the Surface Pro. But if you want something that's still light enough to travel, has a bigger screen, and more comfortable to use, then the Surface laptop is a better choice. So that wraps up my review of the 2017 Surface Pro. I want to hear what you guys like or dislike about it in the comments below. If you want and you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video.